My first set of conclusions concern China. And I want to make the point that China is transforming itself through the building of these new renewable energy industries. And by transforming itself, it is transforming the world. So the upheavals in the global energy business today are, my argument is, largely driven by the upheavals that are taking place in China. Because China is a very large country, and the China energy markets are becoming very large markets compared to the rest of the world. But even more importantly, China is steaming ahead, and I use that word advisedly, in terms of burning coal, but also in bringing on lower carbon and zero carbon energy sources. So they're the twin faces of the China energy phenomenon. So it's engaged in the largest energy transformation that the world has ever witnessed. This is what I'm finding so fascinating, and which I'm suggesting to you would be fascinating topics for your own projects, to look at this transformation in China. And it's underpinning the industrial and economic revolution that is lifting 1.3 billion people out of poverty in China. So there are enormous opportunities, not just for domestic Chinese firms, but for foreign firms in this process. But China always has the power, this is the role of the Chinese state, to insist on technology transfer. So you want to invest in China's energy future, but you do so knowing that China will insist that you transfer technology. That is the cost of entry into the China energy market. And it's done in order to allow China to catch up. It's a very smart strategy on the part of China. So where's the finance for all of this going to come from? Well, that's the second set of conclusions that I want to draw. That the scale and scope of this energy-driven industrial revolution is greater than ever before encountered. And that's why, if it's fixing the greatest market failure that we've ever encountered, global warming, then it needs the biggest correction. And that biggest correction has to come from the largest mobilisation of finance that the world has ever witnessed. So we need new kinds of financial instruments. There's no shortage of capital itself. Lots of banks, lots of pension funds, superannuation funds, equity funds, they all want to invest in energy, but they don't necessarily want to be tied to the fossil fuel system. So they're looking, institutional investors, already managing more than 100 trillion in investable funds, but they're looking for safe investments. And that's where the global financial crisis comes in. The global financial crisis has immobilised all of these institutional investors. They don't trust the banks until the banks are reformed. They don't trust the hedge funds until the hedge funds are reformed. So they're really looking for safe harbour outlets for their investable funds. That's your pension funds, for example, a part of that 100 trillion. So we know from the previous large infrastructure projects, like the building of the sewers, like the interstate highway system, even world wars, fighting world wars. When the means are clear, then the financial means can be found. And the financial means in the past have normally been the bonds. Bonds are the bond markets.